in the whole country. And I'm here with Jack, who is one of the historians here, or just a well-knowledge person? Volunteer.
Pick up what we can.
Yeah. Now, the Mets car. Tell us a little bit about it. When did the Mets automobile come to existence?
Well, it came into existence in the late 1890s. It was the forerunner of it was the Orient bicycle. And Waltham became very well known for making some of the best racing bicycles in the world. And as a natural progression of that, they started getting into making motorcycles to help pace the bicycles. And from that, motorizing buckboards, and from that, going to build regular cars. So they got into the buckboards and what we think of as a car about, I think it was around 1895, but again, I'm probably off a couple of years. And they progressed from a basic buckboard to what they called a kit car, and basically you'd send 25 bucks every few months and you'd get enough parts to build a fender, or you get the wheels or whatever, and you put it together little by little and make yourself a full car. And after that, well, actually a little bit before and during it, but after that they got back into producing regular cars. As the cars got a little more complex, they were a little bit beyond what people could do in their garage. And through the early teens and up until the 20s, mid-20s, they made these cars, and we've got about 8 of them here, a nice progression from the buckboards. I think the latest one we have is displayed is in 1915. And they just got a little more complex as time went on.
The Mets plan car?
Yes.
That I can't believe. That's pretty much a well done restoration, and it's got some cool little things on it. You said the kerosene, not the carbon.
Yeah, it had a dual lighting system.
Yeah.
They had normal kerosene lanterns on the side, and then the secondary thing they had was what they call a carbide lantern. And the carbide lanterns were kind of a complex piece of equipment. It had a canister at the bottom, which you would fill with these pieces of carbide, which kind of resembled little pebbles. And then up top you'd have a water cylinder, and you'd assemble that together, and you'd open the water cylinder and would drip water onto the carbide, and that would create a gas. It's actually a acetylene gas, which is very explosive, which is why they stopped doing that, because they were landing cars. They would have had the first car on the moon if they kept it. Well, maybe not. But anyway, the way it worked further is once the gas was converted, it would run through a line to the actual headlight, and the headlight, you'd light it, and it would just burn.
Pray that you don't blow it up.
No. It was actually what they used, common use would have been for miners, so the headlights that they would use. It was also used in the theater at the time. The byproduct, once you've burned off the acetylene gas, what you have left is a little pile of lime, and when they used it in the theaters, it became known as limelight. And so being in the limelight, that's the origin of that expression.
Now, another little creative thing that was invented in Waltham was power steering.
Yes.
And that was something that's used everywhere in the world now, power steering. So that's another little thing that owes credit to the Mets car and everything.
Older buckboard style, and you can see that there's they're really very primitive. We really didn't know what an automobile should look like or how it should work. So once you get rid of the horses, now what do? And you need to steer it, so you don't have reins anymore. So they used tillers early on.
Right.
And you can see if you got going with one of these things, it doesn't have a lot of safety issues.
Yeah. Now, how much horsepower was in this about?
Oh, gee, not much. I think around 3.
3 horsepower?
Yeah, they weren't really powerful. They could get around pretty fast, but
if the roads were smooth, because you got to remember back then it's all still dirt roads and just
Yeah.
really uneven. So
Well, actually, that brings us to an interesting thing that kind of leads into the pre part of it. In the 1870s, there was the bicycle craze, and most people think of automobiles as being what drove, no pun intended, the development of roads, but it wasn't. It was actually the early bicycles.
no kidding.
And the early bicycles, the high wheelers, some problems with that. You were sitting directly over the center of gravity,
Yeah.
and your wheel was as long as your legs were. That's how much wheel you could get.
Yeah.
And if you hit anything wrong, you'd go right over well, you wouldn't quite go over the handlebars because the handlebars were straight across.
Right.
So you'd like just go head first, and that's where the term "taking a header" comes from. It's actually an 1880s term.
No kidding. That's
Yeah,
cool.
and in the 1880s, there was a group called the League of American Wheelmen, which was sort of a forerunner of AAA, but it was more of a. They were very active, and they pushed quite hard to get decent roads, and a lot of the roads came from there. And as the bicycles got a little bit more complex, they started to make what they called safety bicycles. And all a safety bicycle is a bicycle with safety features. So the old high wheelers, they call those ordinaries, but it's an after the.
Right.
If it wasn't a safety bicycle, it was an ordinary bicycle. So
Yeah.
that's how that name came about. And the safety bicycles, you could step down off of them. You wouldn't. They weren't nearly as lethal as the other ones. And that kind of led into this development of all the technology. Originally, the early bicycles, they did a lot with tubular framing. There were thousands of bicycle companies out there also.
Right.
And the early bicycle companies, a lot of them were weapons manufacturers. They were gun companies because they were used to they were used to taking high quality steel and boring it out and making, they were used to making the kind of things that would be useful in a bicycle. So the development comes along from those through the bicycles into the early buckboards and the small engines and into the larger engines, and it just keeps getting better and better every year. Truly beautiful car. Again, no instrumentation,
Nothing,
a
Your
bulb
horn,
horn, kerosene lights.
Yep.
Strap the engine coil down. In the back, the trunk. The word trunk actually comes because in the old cars they used to literally strap a trunk onto the back of the car.
I see that it says torpedo on the inside here.
Yeah,
It says torpedo back.
That model with that particular back was called the torpedo model. So,
Cool. So 1913 Mets, original price $395 for this car. That's
yeah. I think
that's
they got
amazing.
as low as $350 at one point in 1912.
Yeah.
But they only kept that. They were only able to keep it at that price for a few months. So that was pretty much rock bottom. And I won't turn it. But
It's a crank, yeah. That's the only way
all
this.
cranks.
No turn key.
Yeah, either that or push it. Those are the only two ways. They did in 1913. Cadillac did develop the first automatic starter, but that was for the real high-end cars. So you didn't get it. You couldn't get it in the Mets.